Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Dan Wynn, and I have a very special guest with me today. She is a former news anchor from Hong Kong and now owns her own production company and is a master storyteller. So today I want to welcome to the show Mellissa Tong.
Hi everyone, how are you guys doing? So yes, I'm from Hong Kong. I moved here to the States in 91. And after I finished my MFA degree, I got my first job as a TV news anchor, reporter, and producer at the international channel. They are bilingual TV, actually multilingual, not just bilingual. They are multilingual TV stations in the US. They had one of the very first satellite TV stations in the US. So I was on their bilingual news program, and that pretty much launched my storytelling and production career.
Now, did you go to school for TV production, or was it just like the first job you had, and that's kind of what you learned everything about TV production?
Well, I didn't go to school for TV production.
Oh,
I actually was a music composition major. But I have done radio work before,
mhm,
live radio work, radio show, so I've
mhm.
done that before. So I had a pretty good delivery in terms of, radio and just the voice. So they gave me a screen test for the news, for the anchoring job. And because I didn't mess up, they said, wow, we've never had anybody who did not mess up on reading the teleprompter. You were the first one, so you're hired. And I wasn't even expecting that. It was my
Right.
first time reading the teleprompter. But
Mhm.
I guess in a way, when you did 4 years, I mean not 4 years, when you did radio before, you kind of got the sense of what a perfect delivery would be. So I
Mhm.
just basically applied what I did on radio and to the TV spin test,
Mhm.
and so I was hired. And luckily, they gave me a 5-minute human interest segment every day. So I didn't have to cover any hot news, no
Right.
plane crash, no accident, nothing like that. So they said, okay, go do something that's fun and that's that normal audience would want to
Yeah.
watch. So I say, okay, perfect. So every day I would go with a cameraman and we'll shoot anything and everything from health, beauty, technology, science. I rarely cover politics, only once in a while.
Mhm.
And what else? I did Star Trek conventions a few times. And then I did movie premieres every Friday, red carpet events, and I mean, just fun things, you name it.
Yeah.
So I did that for 4 years, and I interviewed thousands of people from all walks of life and covered over 1,200 stories. So that
Wow.
really launched my storytelling career.
Yeah, so you must have heard some fantastic stories from people all across the country. Maybe share maybe your favorite story or favorite interview that you did while working at the station.
Yeah, there are a few that I I still remember.
Hmm.
Um, So there was a story I did at the I think it's called John Tracy Clinic in downtown LA. And at the time, they were a nonprofit organization that helps kids to restore their hearing. And I was there, and I remember there was there was a kid there. I don't remember how old he was at the time. It's probably like maybe 4 or 5 years old or something, and he wasn't able to hear very well, so he was wearing hearing aid. And that day he came in to do some testing, and I think they were giving him some aids or something to help him with his hearing. And just the joy of just seeing the joy on his face after he could actually hear something, and it was like a wow factor for him because he
Hmm.
couldn't hear very well, right? And then all of a sudden, you can tell he was like, wow, like sounds that he never heard before. And then the mother, of course, was overjoyed. Everybody was overjoyed, and that moment just kind of stuck with me. And then of course, there were other moments, and this would be a funny moment. So one time I don't remember what movie that was, but Jackie Chan and a bunch of his entourage, and there were a few stars also. I think they were here to promote some movie or something. Um, and they were on stage. I was lining up to interview them. Just a quick short interview, and So they weren't even paying attention. So by the time it got to my chance, so I was asking them a question and they weren't paying attention. They were just talking among themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, and I asked, I said Jackie Chan like a bunch of times, hey, Jackie, I have a question. Jackie, I have a question. It's like finally 3 times, if I pay attention. And then I asked my question in Cantonese and he answered. And I was just like, wow, these people, sometimes it's like, okay, enough talking among yourselves.
Yeah.
I mean, there were a lot of fun moments and a lot of fun stories. I mean, I interviewed a lot of stars, like Hollywood and Asian. I interviewed Chow Yun-fat multiple times. One time, I was supposed to interview Michelle Yeoh at a junket. A junket is where they just sit there and then they rotate through different reporters throughout the day, right? That's called press junket. So I was supposed to interview her at the press junket, but they messed up, the time. When I got there, they said, "Oh, we were done." I don't know how they messed up. So I was like, "No, you don't understand. I have a segment. I have a segment that is scheduled to end next week. And this is that. I have to interview her. You got to find a way." So they say, "Oh no, we can. I mean, the crew has already left, and I don't know what to do." So finally they sent her to the station, to send her to the TV station. And we did it, in our studio in-house. So I got her completely one-on-one.
Wow, nice. Yeah.
With no interruption.
Yeah.
So that was good. Yeah. So it's just a lot of fun and nice moments. Good memories.
Yeah. Now, was there kind of a lot of time were you like always on the field because you had to go and find people?
I was in the field a lot because I got 5 minutes to field, right?
Yeah.
So every day I just have to come up with a story, regardless of where I got the story from. I just have to. I mean, sometimes, maybe not every single day I was out. Maybe I was out 3-4 times. I would say 3-4 times a week. And then the rest of the time I will try to we get a lot of news stories to begin with, and then the news stories come with footage. So sometimes I would just, use the existing story and just edit the footage together to fit my own segment. Instead of out every single day.
Okay. Did you ever get people trying to pitch to you and go, "Hey, this is a story that..."
all the time.
Right.
All
okay.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
And another funny thing is, when people recognize that, you're on TV, people always try to talk to you and give you freebies, right? So I remember, when I go to restaurants, sometimes I always get like a free drink because we're all here.
Oh.
So it does come with some perks.
Okay. So you had the point like, "Oh, I saw you on TV," or like, "Oh, aren't you the news reporter?" Or
I
like,
try to. I've always been very low profile. I don't crave for that. I know it's crazy to say this, but for some people, they crave, that attention. They people die to be on TV, right? But for me, I'm more of a behind the scene, kind of a gal. So I don't really crave for that attention, and I actually don't like to be recognized. I rather remain anonymous.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So talk about moving behind the scenes, behind the camera. And I do know that you worked on martial law for a little bit.
Right.
Tell us about kind of moving from I assume this is how it went, human interest stories at the TV, and then moving over to, working on a TV show.
So after 4 years at the TV station, I decided that I really liked the production side of things, but I wasn't crazy about news, because even though doing the human interest segment was fun for me, but I started covering the same stories, like Star Trek Convention, right? They had it every year. I already covered like 2 or 3 times. It's like, okay, I'm not sure I want to do it, the 4th time, right? So I thought, okay, moving forward, I need to figure out, what I want to do, for my career instead of just a job. So I was fortunate enough that I got a job working on the CBS show Martial Law, and I'll tell you a funny story. And I don't know about you, but me as a kid growing up, I grew up watching Jackie Chan and grew up watching Sammo Hung, right? I mean, they had the big stars, right, in Asia. And the first time I don't remember why, but Sammo Hung left a message on my cell phone. So you're gonna laugh at this. I kept that for a while. I mean, because like, wow, I can't believe it. Samo is
Yeah,
calling
right.
me and leaving me a message. Oh wow! So I was a little bit starstruck. And of course, eventually I erased that. But yeah, that was a funny story. And I mean, he was so nice and so easy to
Mm.
work with. Yeah, so that was a great experience. And when the show got canceled, I just decided to go out on my own and started my own production company, and been doing it since.
Yeah. So your production company is called DuckPunk
DuckPunk,
Productions.
yeah,
Tell
correct.
tell me how you came up with this name. I'm a trademark attorney, so I'm like
Okay,
always looking at names, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
tell me how you came up with this name.
Okay, so I came up with the name because I was this was back in 2000. I was trying to find a name for my company, and I just so happened to be at this lake in Culver City at a park. There were a bunch of ducks there, and I was just feeding the ducks with breadcrumbs. There was this one duck with a mohawk, just like, and I'm not joking.
Yeah.
It's real. But back then there was no camera on the phone, so I couldn't really take a picture of him.
Right.
So he was swimming and eating, and after 45 minutes, all the other ducks were like, "Oh, I'm full. I'm just hanging out. Cannot be bothered." He would still charge over to get to the food. So I kept looking at him, thinking, "Wow, you're one aggressive duck. you know, you've been eating this whole time, and how much
Mm-hmm.
more can you eat, right? And you're still
Yeah.
hungry." So anyway, I left, and then I went home, and then I for some reason I just couldn't shake that image off my head. So I started playing with the word punk rock, mohawk, and punk duck.
Mhm.
So 6 weeks later, I decided to name my company DuckPunk because in alphabetical order, I'm a T, right? So I'm always on the very
Oh yeah.
last page.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, if I have a company, I should have a have a letter
That
that
is
is
smart.
a little bit,
Yeah.
closer to the front. So I'm not
Yeah.
all the way, in the end. So I named my company DuckPunk, and I thought it was fun and it was a cool name. Little did I know that Duck Punk actually meant something a lot more to me, because being a female, Asian female, working in a very male-dominated world, I realized that duck became my inspiration.
Hmm.
So every time I come across a hurdle, I have to remind myself to be like him and never give up.
Hmm.
So that's my Duck Punk
Come
story.
keep coming back for breadcrumbs, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So all right, you have DuckPunk Productions. Tell us a little bit about what do you do for your clients over at DuckPunk?
Okay, so at DuckPunk, we work with B2B companies most of the
Mm-hmm.
time and help them craft compelling messages and create strikingly interesting visual stories to connect with the audience, to get them buying. So whether it's a product, service, a company, it doesn't matter. But basically, we help them with the communication channel and make sure that messaging or the visual story is on point with what they represent as a brand, and then get them connected on an emotional level with their clients or potential customers, so that their potential customers will buy in to what they do and then eventually buy their products or service.
Yeah. So I read this quote recently. I've heard it before, but it came back into my mind is, you know, people will um what is it? People buy because you for the reasons why you do. I'm kind of butchering the thing, but I'm trying to remember the quote exactly. But they don't say they don't buy because of what you're selling, but why you're selling it.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
So people buy nobody buys based on facts, although the facts are important.
Mm-hmm.
People always buy based on emotions.
Hmm.
So I'll give you an example. Now, let me ask you a question. How many times have you bought, a new gadget, and then you go home, you show off, to your family, hey, look at this, I got this new thing, phone or whatever, and then they always say, oh, but didn't you have one, like not too long ago? It's like, oh, but I like this phone because it's newer, it has new functions, blah 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 blah,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we always, when we buy, it's the emotion that drives, the actual buy.
Hmm.
But then after we buy, we use the facts to justify why we buy,
Mm-hmm.
because we want to feel good about why we buy. So
Oh,
that's
okay. Yeah.
that's the whole why people buy process. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So when you have a product or service,
Mm-hmm.
you have to you have to make sure your audience understand why you have that product, why that product is important, and what is the product can do for people. So when
Hmm.
they buy, they go home and they say, "Oh, I have to have this because you see, you still need the facts, but
Yeah.
the emotional connection has to come first.
Yeah.
Otherwise, nobody will buy."
Yeah. I just actually just bought a new phone. My previous phone broke, and I was like, oh yeah, all right, I'm shopping for a new phone.
Yeah,
And what kind of what you just mentioned earlier, um, yeah, I think I heard it from Tony Robbins, who just had his business mastery event virtually this year. And I was listening to some of his old speeches, and what he says was, people buy with emotion and justify with logic.
yeah, exactly. That's
Right.
what I'm talking about. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Every single time. It doesn't matter what doesn't matter how small, how big the object or service is. That's always the case.
Yeah, yeah, and I remember when the first iPhone came out, and Apple started running commercials, and I was sitting in a kind of a marketing seminar, and they ran this commercial, and if I really remember, um, it was basically when FaceTime. I don't know if FaceTime launched with the first one, but when FaceTime came out, it was the grandpa FaceTiming with the kids, or the parents FaceTiming with the kids, right?
Right.
And that was like, hey, you don't buy the phone just because it can make phone calls for you. You buy the phone because
Yes.
you can connect with your grandkids, and that experience you have with your grandkids or your
Yeah, that's
kids.
priceless.
Yeah,
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 exactly. So that's the emotional connection piece, right?
yeah.
That's priceless. You see. So that's why people say, "Oh, I want that." It's not just the phone. You see.
Yeah, yeah. So you talk about storytelling, and obviously having interviewed so many people over so many years, you learn a couple of things about what makes a great story. So I wanted to ask you if you can share like maybe three things um, that business owners, entrepreneurs need to know about what makes a good story that will help them be more successful in their business, help them get more clients, help them get more sales.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's actually pretty simple, but it's a exercise if you have not done it before. So number one, you have to know why you do what you do. So when I ask people this question, a lot of people tell me, "Oh, yeah, of course, I know my why. I want to spend more. I want more time to have more time to spend with my family." No, that's the result of your why. That's not your why. And other people will say, "Oh, of course, I want to be an entrepreneur because I want to make more money." Again, that's the result of your why. That's not your why. Okay, so people always, oftentimes, give me the results, but not the actual why. So, and sometimes your why, it's not so easy to figure out. It may, I mean, I have not come across anybody who didn't really have a defining moment about their why.
Mhm.
It's always there, but sometimes it could be from childhood, or it could be from high school. I mean, you just have to keep thinking back in terms of your own experience, and figure that piece out. And sometimes it's not so easy for people, so that's why you have storytellers like us around to help you figure out. So I would say the number one key is find your why. Figure out why you do what you do. Number two, you have to understand the transformation and results that you're giving to your customers. So it doesn't matter whether it's product or service, but what are the results that people are getting from your product or service?
Yeah.
And number three, why are you different? And how are you different from your competitors? Because, in this day and age, I mean, regardless of the industry, there are so many people working in the same industry doing the exact same thing, right? And
Hmm.
how do you differentiate yourself?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you
No.
have to understand, yeah, you have to understand why you're different from your competitors.
Yeah, and I kind of went through this a couple years ago, for like my new business formations and trademarks. The result in itself is a commodity, right? The
Mhm.
end result is they get a trademark registration. The end result is they get a registered LLC or corporation. So for a long time, I struggled. Like, okay, then how do I differentiate myself? There's got LegalZoom, there's other attorneys. Why would someone hire me? And for kind of that particular scenario with the result as a commodity, what would you say to those people? Like you said, there's lots of people in different industries that can do the same thing for them. What would
Right.
you say to them that when if they're going through something like that?
Well, then is there why? So I'll give you an
Yeah.
example. I worked with a CPA once, So he said, well, I'm not really getting any traction because people usually find me a little bit boring. And I'm just like, I can't seem to, I can't seem to have very interesting conversation with people. And when I asked them, oh, are you looking for a new CPA? Everybody was like, oh no, I already got mine. Nobody really wants to engage in a conversation about, filing taxes, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
guess that is not a subject that is, that is very welcome.
Yeah.
So he said, well, I don't know what to do anymore. So I said,
Hmm.
okay, well, let's figure out why you wanted to be a CPA. And we were talking and talking, and he kept telling me, well, you know what? I don't really have my why. I love numbers. I like helping people, save money from Uncle Sam, and that's it. I don't really have anything else. And I say, no, 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 no. That's not it. I mean, I've talked to enough people to know that there's always the why somewhere hidden someplace.
Hmm.
Okay. So I said, okay, let's go back. So we kept going back, college, high school. I said, okay, let's keep going. So we kind of like, I'm kind of like holding his hand through, down the memory lane. So finally he said, well, you know what? Um, yeah, there was this one incident when I was a child, and my father was audited. And I remember it was a very stressful time for everybody because my father didn't have all his paperwork ready. He was trying to get everything ready, and I don't know if his CPA was helpful or not, but the whole family was going crazy. He was driving everybody nuts. you know, I was
Yeah.
witnessing it,
Yeah.
from a young boy's point of view, and I remember telling myself, "Wow, if I'm a CPA, I would not let this happen to my clients." So that was his defining moment, but he totally forgot about it.
Hmm.
So since we rediscovered that story, he's been using that, at networking events. So instead of telling people, "Oh, hi, I'm a CPA," do you need a new CPA? I like helping people save money. Let's talk about tax, right? So instead of doing all that, he's basically, when people ask him what he does, he said, "Well, let me share, a story with you. When I was a child, I actually witnessed my father getting audited." And people were, oh no, because people can relate, right? Nobody wants to get
Right.
audited. Yeah, it was a very stressful time. And I remember telling myself that. And then you know what? I actually did become a CPA. See, so when he tells a story like this, then people are more willing to listen. And
Hmm.
then people may not remember his name. People may not remember he's the actual CPA, but people will remember his story. So when people
Hmm.
are ready to look for a new CPA, or maybe they have friends who, want to, look for a new CPA, then they remember him. Oh yeah, I remember that guy. Okay, I'm gonna call him because I know since his father went through it, I'm sure he will make sure that all his clients' paperwork is ready to go, whether they get audited or not, right? Some people like that. So yeah, so he's getting a lot of traction.
Yeah, yeah, and I think what you just described is kind of an important process. And this is the story I tell. I was blessed enough to teach a law school class a couple of years ago, and they didn't give me much. I don't think anyone taught this class before, or it's been a long time, so like there's no syllabus or anything. So I was like, start from scratch, right? And so I had to create a whole lesson plan and everything. And one of the hardest parts was like just putting down on paper what I knew about what they wanted to learn, what I was teaching. But one of the things I realized through the process is like, yeah, if you ask me to sit down and write down everything I know a particular subject, it's kind of like I wouldn't know where to start, right? Because it's like so many things. But if you sit down and ask me questions, then I'm able to answer those questions. And what you kind of that process you went through with that CPA is like, yeah, how to become they can look at all the story, they can look up, try to finding your why, right? read
Right,
read Simon Sinek, finding your why.
right,
But I think there's some value in working with somebody that can ask you the right questions at the right time
correct,
and pull the information
correct.
out of you to to craft the to craft a great story.
Correct. Yeah. Because there's only so many, see, because everyone is different, right? And everyone's different, and everyone's different with how they remember experiences. And
Hmm.
everyone's emotion is different, depending on how that experience played out in their life. So a book and question is fine, but it's just a formula, right? So
Mhm.
that's why I always like to do it on a personal level, on a one-to-one level, because there are things that I think is important, that as a storyteller that I need to know in order to help my client figure out what the story is. And they may not need, when they finally are able to tell the story, they may not need the whole scope of everything they went through, right?
Mhm.
But they don't know how much of the story they need to tell. Maybe
Mhm.
maybe the whole experience 100%. Maybe the story only needs
Mhm.
70% of that whole experience,
Mhm.
right? And some stories maybe it's too much. Maybe you only need to tell 30% of that experience. You see, and it's very hard when it's your own story. You have no you're so close to your own story, so you need
Mhm.
another set of eye to tell you, okay, this is the way you should do it, and you know um, you should tell it. You should tell the whole of it. And when to stop. And how you should craft it. To make it compelling and to make it relatable, right?
Mhm.
So that is very hard to do for yourself. Like sometimes I have a hard time doing it for me,
Mhm.
although I'm so good at doing it for other people.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah,
always hard to
yeah,
do it for yourself.
yeah.
Yeah, but for other people it's like so easy for me. I can
Yeah.
see with anybody. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter what they sell. I can always come up with multiple stories while
Mhm.
I listen to them telling me their life experiences. Like, for example, I worked with a woman just last weekend, and she's a third generation etiquette consultant.
Hmm.
So it got passed down from her grandmother to her mother and to her.
Mhm.
And she kept saying that, oh yeah, I'm a third generation etiquette. And I said, you know what? That's not enough. I mean, there's got to be something more than just a third generation etiquette
Mhm.
consultant. So finally, we discovered what that was, and now she can really use it when she go do her interviews and press releases and bios and everything.
Yeah. Can you go back to kind of the number two tip that you mentioned? There's something that caught my ear, but I can't seem to recall.
Number two was, I think, so number one is the why. Number two is, the value and the transformation you bring to the table.
Mm. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was reading. I was going through this marketing course, and it was like, what's um, you talk about transferring. What is the tangible benefit that you can give to your clients? Like, so like in my industry, right? So we can get the trademark certificate right there, or like we can keep you out of jail if you did DUI, right?
Mhm. Right.
So is that something that you kind of impress to your clients? Is like, hey, what's the result? Because people buy results, right? And people
Yeah,
buy benefits,
absolutely.
right?
So the
Yeah. Mm.
result, so the result
That's
from
fair.
from my perspective
Mm.
is, well, everybody needs to find a way to connect to the audience,
Mhm.
and everyone wants to gain more clients and sell more.
Mhm.
That's just, I mean, that's a no-brainer, right? But how do you get there? And without a story, it's hard to get there, because our brain, we have such a short attention span nowadays. If we cannot grab people's attention within like maybe 3 to 7 seconds, we
Mhm.
we lose them.
Mhm.
Okay, so basically, if you cannot succinctly tell people and identify what you do in the first, with one or two sentences, forget about the third sentence, you're done. And so
Yeah.
that's why, to me, being able to have a really, really good elevator pitch is so important and so key, because I look at that as the first doorway to any type of business relationship. If you cannot get through the first gate, there's no second gate or third gate. You're done. You shut out, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
But imagine if you can actually open your elevator pitch with a good story that can hook people in, and get people want to listen, and they go, wow, okay, that's a good story, and remember you.
Mhm.
And then the opportunities can be limitless.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's why I think being able to have that, and work all of that into your elevator pitch is so key.
Yeah, yeah. And I think storytelling is probably one of the most powerful skills. It's not just sales, right? It's relationships,
Right.
legacy, right?
Right.
Teaching
Everything.
your
Yeah.
kids. So it is ability to graph a great story is can span a lot of different facets of your life. So we're kind of coming to the end here. So let's do the rapid fire question.
Okay.
So just answer the first thing that comes in your head. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So who do you look up to?
I look up to Oprah.
Oprah. All right. What's the best business advice you've ever received?
Wow, I ever received. Hmm. Let's see. Okay, I think it's this one. Never give up.
Never give up. What's the best business book you've ever read?
Well, I like this book. It's not exactly a business book. It's called The Four Agreements, and I think we
Agreements.
can apply it in both business and personal.
Okay. If you can do one thing over again, what would it be?
If I could do one thing over again, I would not focus so much on my craft, and I would focus a little bit more on my business.
Hmm. What's the biggest challenge you have in your business today?
Today, it's time. Yeah,
Uh,
it's time.
uh,
Yeah, yeah, because although I have a pretty successful business, but with COVID, my main business is at a standstill,
mhm.
and then I somehow got into the PPE world by accident, and I get calls every single day from buyers, sellers, and so it's about managing my time.
Yeah. Okay. And the last question. You lose everything. The only thing you have is your cell phone, your computer, and an internet connection. How do you rebuild your business in 30 days?
So wait, so I don't have anything, right?
Only
No,
computer, internet, and your cell phone.
wait, so do I have my cell phone or no cell phone?
Yeah, you have your cell phone. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I have my cell phone. How do I rebuild my business with my cell phone?
Well, your cell
Oh,
phone and a computer and a laptop in 30
oh,
days.
even that. Oh, then you're good to go. You have
Ah,
everything. That's easy. Well, then call up people that you worked with before. Call
uh-huh.
up people that know you, and ask for referrals. And if you're starting out, try to give people a free session or something,
Mhm.
and let people get a taste of what you can do for them, and go from there.
Fantastic. I've got Mellissa Tong from DuckPunk Productions. I know you've done some speaking for SBDC and
Hmm.
NABO. Where can we find you? Do you have any workshops coming up? If we want to learn more about you, how can we
Yeah,
connect with you?
absolutely.
Yeah.
So I have done quite a bit of speaking. My big highlight I like to mention was actually spoke at the mayor's office,
Wow.
last October. So
Mm,
that was a big, yeah, that was
mm,
definitely a big highlight. So I do have a seminar coming up, and it's a 3-week class called "How to Apply Storytelling in Your Elevator Pitch to Gain More Clients." And during my last class, one of my students actually did $580,000 worth of sales in 3 weeks. So I was just like, whoa! It gave me some confidence to keep
Yeah.
going. So my
Yeah.
new class starts I think October 2nd, and
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I'll give you my info. So if people want to contact me for
Yeah.
info, I'm um, happy to share the info.
Okay, yeah, we'll post the link on the show notes for your class.
Okay.
Um, Thanks again for joining us on the show. I think it was very very good, very very insightful about kind of the world of storytelling and how
Yeah.
powerful it is. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. So hope we can get talk again soon,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
and best wishes on your production company and your PPE company.
Okay. All
All
right. Well,
right.
thanks for
Okay.
having me.
My
Okay. Bye.
pleasure. All right. Goodbye.